You guys, something that's on my mind is the idea of busyness. Thinking that being busy makes you somehow productive or of value is a curse, right? I know a bunch of people, I'm not gonna name names, but they run around and they act like they're busy. And somehow that seems to provide identity and validation. Somehow it provides value to them, or they think it does, right? And I've been watching this for, well, in hindsight, I've been watching this for about 2 decades. You know how when you kind of slowly become aware of something, and then when you look back, you go, wow, that's been going on right in front of me. And I've seen what the rewards are of a specific consistent behavior. And you know you don't want them. So I've not found identity in being busy, but for me, I have a predisposition to just abuse myself, to just grind hard. If you were to say, hey, we got to do this, but somebody's got to really embrace the suck and do this crappy thing, generally I'm already on it. And that, I think, has held me back in a lot of ways. It's opened some doors for sure, right? But it's definitely not something that you want to just generically be. I don't know if generic's the right word, but you don't want to just be that, just as a blanket statement, right? I think it's something that you can pull out when needed, once in a while, and that's absolutely fine. All things in moderation, right? So, to all you guys out there who are at any stage of this journey, just consider this your fair warning. Business means nothing, right? So at this stage of the game, I'm looking very carefully at the outcomes. I'm looking at, am I doing the thing that's going to get me the result that over time is going to compound and become the life that I want? So, for instance, people say to focus on the process, not the outcome. What I heard that years ago, and it just didn't really stick with me. I think what they're trying to say, again, in hindsight, I think what they're trying to say is that if you keep your eye on the ball, to use a sports analogy, right? That's going to work out better for you. So, what does that look like for a guy in manufacturing like me? Well, I have to make sure that I am evolving my processes. I have to make sure that I take on the right jobs. You have to do the math. You have to know your metrics, right? Because you have to be able to look at a job very quickly, run the numbers in your head. Like, by all means, yes, do them on your spreadsheet or on paper, however you do them. But you should also just know, right? There's the just knowing because you've done the work and you know the numbers, you know the game. You're a student of the game, right? And then afterwards you prove it on paper, right? And you need to do that just for your own documentation. But if you've been at this for some time and you don't know your metrics, you're just playing it fast and loose, right? And what that equals is you're just hoping, right? So if you're one of those guys, grinding, making sparks and dust in your garage, and you don't know how much money you're making, if you don't know what your profit margins are, if you don't know what your overhead is, if you don't know what your hourly rate is, and you're not paying yourself, right, then you know what the problems are now. I promise you, working that way, you're not getting anywhere, right? You may be climbing currently, but you're climbing towards a ceiling, because that method will not allow you to grow, because it's not a metric driven approach. How do you know when you can afford to upgrade a piece of equipment, or replace a piece of equipment, or hire staff, or make that big investment to get a really good price on some material? But you got to buy, a mill run of steel, for instance. Right? So all these things require data, and they require being very mindful of all the details. So I'd just like to encourage you guys to don't be busy, be knowledgeable.